My friends, life gives us two choices every single day: to live in fear or to live in freedom. Fear is like a shadow. It follows us wherever we go. It whispers in our ear, "What if you fail? What if you're not good enough? What if others laugh at you?" But here's the truth. Fear is nothing more than an imagination dressed up as reality. It is a story we keep telling ourselves until it feels true. Think about this. When a child learns to walk, does he worry about falling? No, he stumbles, falls, gets up and tries again. If that child thought like most of us adults, he would say, "I fell once. Maybe walking is not for me." But thankfully, children don't think that way. That's why they grow. That's why they move forward. If fear controlled them, they would crawl forever. And then there are limits. People will tell you, "You can't do this. This is too big for you. No one has ever done it before." But my question is, who decided these limits? Are they written on stone tablets from the sky? Or are they just walls built by the world? And sometimes, sadly, by our own minds. Limits are only real if you believe in them. The moment you stop believing, they stop existing. So, the mantra for life is simple: no fear, no limits. Just you, in there. Not the you that society has shaped. Not the you that carries the burden of everyone's opinions. But the you that is raw, powerful, and original. The you that is not afraid to dream, to act, to rise, to shine. That version of you can transform your world and inspire others to break their own chains. My friends, the world does not need another copy. It needs the original you. Because there is no fear strong enough to hold you down, and no limit high enough to stop you when you decide to rise. So, today, walk out of this place with courage, break every false boundary, and live the life only you can live. No fear, no limits, just you. Fear is one of the greatest actors in life. It wears so many costumes that we start believing it is real. Sometimes it comes as worry, sometimes as doubt, sometimes as hesitation. And yet, when we look deeper, fear is nothing more than a story we tell ourselves. Imagine standing in a dark room where you see a rope on the ground, but your mind says, "It's a snake." Suddenly your heart beats faster, your body shivers, and you even start sweating. But the moment someone switches on the light, you realize it was just a rope all along. Did the rope change? No. Did the situation change? Not really. What changed was the perception. And that perception was built by fear. That's how fear works in life. We imagine the worst outcomes before even taking the first step. We magnify problems that don't even exist. We tell ourselves, "I'm not good enough. I can't do this. People will laugh at me." And because we keep repeating that, the mind accepts it as truth. It's like planting a seed of negativity and watering it every day until it becomes a tree that blocks the sunlight of confidence. And yet, just like the rope and snake, the moment you shine the light of awareness, the illusion vanishes. You realize fear was never as big as you made it in your mind. Think of how many dreams have died because of fear. A person wants to start a business, but fears failure. A student wants to speak up in class, but fears embarrassment. An artist wants to share their work, but fears rejection. And so, they hold back, convincing themselves that staying safe is better than taking the risk. But here's the irony. Most of the time, what we fear never even happens. The business may succeed, the student may inspire, the artist may touch hearts. Yet we let illusions dictate reality. Fear has power only when we give it attention. It's like a stray dog on the street. If you keep looking at it, it may start chasing you. But if you walk with confidence, ignoring it, the dog usually loses interest. Fear feeds on your focus. The more you look at it, the bigger it becomes. The less you give it importance, the weaker it gets. Courage does not mean you never feel fear. Courage simply means you see fear for what it is, an illusion, and decide to move forward anyway. Look back at your own life. How many times did you worry about an exam, an interview, or a conversation, only to realize later that it wasn't as bad as you imagined? The fear before the moment was always greater than the reality of the moment itself. This pattern repeats again and again, yet we forget and allow fear to trick us into paralysis. But when we remind ourselves that fear is only a shadow, we begin to walk lighter. Because no matter how big the shadow appears, it cannot harm you. It only looks bigger because the light is behind you. Fear is the same. It looks huge only because of the way we see it, not because it truly is. Failure is one of the most misunderstood teachers in life. The moment we stumble, the moment things don't go as planned, our mind immediately whispers, "This is the end." But failure is never the end. It is only a bend in the road. It redirects us, reshapes us, and if we are willing to learn, it refines us. The real problem is not failure itself, but the way we look at it. Too often, we wear failure like a label, stamping it on our identity instead of seeing it as a temporary event. We say, "I failed, therefore I am a failure." But the truth is, you are not your failure. You are the lesson you take from it. Think about how we learned as children. When a baby tries to stand and falls, do we say, "This child will never walk"? Of course not. We laugh, we clap, we encourage the attempt, knowing that each fall is a step closer to walking steadily. Yet when we grow older, we forget this wisdom. One failure at work, one failed relationship, one business collapse, and suddenly we convince ourselves that we are incapable, that maybe we're not meant for success. But failure never says you can't. It only asks, "Will you try again?" History is filled with examples of people who turned failure into greatness. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before perfecting the light bulb. When asked about his repeated failures, he said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Each failure was not a dead end, but a stepping stone toward discovery. Imagine if he had stopped after the first 100 attempts, or even the first 1,000. We would be living in darkness. His persistence turned failure into feedback, and feedback into innovation. In our own lives, Failure often carries hidden gifts. It humbles us when pride begins to grow. It teaches us patience when we are too eager for instant results. It reminds us of resilience when we feel weak. Most importantly, it strips away illusions and shows us the reality of what works and what doesn't. Without failure, success would have no meaning. Success without struggle is like a book with no story. It feels empty. It lacks depth. Failure gives weight to our victories, making them worth celebrating. Yet many people fear failure so much that they don't even try. They let the possibility of defeat outweigh the possibility of growth. This fear of failure is more dangerous than failure itself, because it kills potential before it is even born. A failed attempt still moves you forward, but a fear that stops you keeps you stuck in the same place. That is why it is better to fail 100 times than to never try once. At least in failure, you are learning, growing, and preparing yourself for the next opportunity. When we change the way we see failure, everything changes. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" we ask, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of saying, "I am not good enough," we say, "This attempt didn't work, but I will try differently." Each failure is like a mirror. It shows us where we are, but also reflects what needs to improve. If you can embrace failure as feedback, it becomes your greatest ally. Because in truth, failure is not final. It is simply a signal that you are on the journey of becoming stronger, wiser, and ultimately unstoppable. One of the most powerful lessons in life can be learned by simply observing a child. Watch how a baby learns to walk. In the beginning, every step is wobbly, unsteady, uncertain. The child holds onto a table, takes a step, falls, and maybe even cries. But within minutes, that same child tries again. The fall is forgotten, the failure is erased, and the desire to move forward becomes stronger than the memory of the stumble. This cycle repeats countless times. Fall, rise, try again, until eventually walking becomes natural. And yet, as we grow older, we somehow lose this resilience. We allow one fall to define us, one rejection to stop us, one disappointment to make us retreat permanently. The beauty of a child's resilience is that it comes without overthinking. They don't calculate how many times they will fall before they succeed. They don't compare themselves to other children, worrying that someone else is walking faster. They don't attach labels like failure or incapable to their stumbles. They simply try again because their focus is not on the fall but on the goal. That pure determination is something we often bury under layers of doubt, fear, and pride as we get older. We start asking questions that don't serve us. What if I fail again? What will people think? Maybe I'm not meant for this. Children, on the other hand, don't ask these questions. They simply move forward. Think of how different our lives would be if we carried the same resilience. Every project we start, every dream we chase, every skill we attempt to learn would be met with the same attitude. So what if I fall? I will rise again. Instead of being paralyzed by the thought of failure, we would treat each setback as part of the natural process of growth. Just like a child doesn't quit learning to walk after one fall, we would not quit on our dreams after one setback. That childlike resilience is not lost. It is still within us, waiting to be awakened. Consider the journeys of great innovators, leaders, and creators. Many of them carried the spirit of a child in their persistence. They fell multiple times, but instead of seeing those falls as signs of weakness, they saw them as steps toward mastery. Their resilience was not a gift they were born with, but a choice they made repeatedly. To rise again, no matter how many times they stumbled. This is exactly what children do naturally, without even realizing it. They embody the truth that resilience is less about strength and more about persistence. There is also a kind of joy in resilience that children display beautifully. When they fall, sometimes they laugh, sometimes they cry, but rarely do they stay down for long. There is always an eagerness to move forward, to explore, to try once more. Adults often replace this eagerness with seriousness, forgetting that resilience thrives when it is fueled by hope and enthusiasm. If we can reconnect with that childlike spirit, we would discover that resilience doesn't have to be heavy or exhausting. It can be light, playful, and full of life. The lesson is simple yet profound. Falling is not the opposite of progress. It is a part of progress. A child understands this instinctively. Every rise after a fall builds strength. Every attempt after a stumble builds skill. And every try brings them closer to success. Life is no different. The resilience of a child is not just about walking. It is about living with the courage to rise again and again, no matter how many times you fall. Limits are often nothing more than invisible fences we inherit from the world around us. From childhood, we are told what we can and cannot do, what is possible and what is not, what dreams are practical and which ones are foolish. Slowly, these words become walls in our minds, shaping the boundaries of what we dare to attempt. But the truth is, many of these limits are not real. They are borrowed beliefs, accepted without question. The moment we stop accepting them, they lose their power. Consider how human history has always been about breaking so-called limits. Once upon a time, people believed it was impossible to cross oceans until someone built ships and proved otherwise. They believed humans could never fly until two brothers built a machine with wings and lifted off the ground. They believed it was impossible to reach the moon until rockets carried human beings into space. What changed? Not the laws of nature, but the courage to challenge the limits set by society. The same truth applies in our personal lives. The ceiling we think we have is rarely real. It is a story we accepted as truth. Many people live inside these false walls without ever questioning them. A student might believe, I am not smart enough for this subject, simply because of one bad grade. An employee may think, I can never be a leader because no one ever encouraged them. An artist might convince themselves, My work will never be good enough because of one rejection. These limits feel solid, but they are fragile illusions built from opinions, not facts. And just like a bird that realizes the cage door has been open all along, we too can step beyond them the moment we dare. The challenge is that limits often feel safe. They give us a reason not to try, a justification for staying comfortable. But comfort is not growth, and safety is not fulfillment. Growth always begins at the edge of what we believe is possible. When we push against those edges, we discover that our capacity is far greater than we imagined. What we thought was a limit turns out to be just a starting line. Life expands every time we take a step beyond the walls we thought were fixed. Look at any inspiring story, and you will find someone who refused to accept limits. A runner breaks a world record because they believed the human body could go faster. An inventor creates something extraordinary because they believed there had to be a better way. A leader inspires change because they believed people deserved more. Each of these breakthroughs began with the courage to say, "The limits I see are not the end of the road. They are only challenges to be tested." The same is true for each one of us. The mind has a strange habit. It builds fences around possibilities before we even begin. But life rewards those who test those fences, who lean against them, who push until they realize the walls were never as strong as they seemed. Every time we do this, we not only grow ourselves, but also expand what others believe is possible. Because when one person breaks a limit, it gives permission for others to do the same. Limits exist only as long as we bow down to them, but the moment we stand tall and question them, they begin to fall away. From the moment we are born, voices surround us, telling us who we should be, how we should behave, and what paths we should follow. Parents, teachers, relatives, friends, even strangers on the street. Everyone has an opinion about the life we should live. At first, these voices seem harmless, but over time, they grow louder than our own. They tell us, "This is not practical. That dream is too big. People like you don't do things like that." Slowly, these opinions start weaving into our thoughts until we begin to believe them. What begins as external noise eventually becomes internal dialogue, and without realizing it, we lose touch with who we really are. Society often rewards conformity because it is comfortable when everyone fits into familiar boxes. If you follow the expected path, study, get a stable job, settle down, live quietly, you are accepted, even celebrated. But the moment you try to break out of the mold, questions arise. Why are you doing this? Who do you think you are? What if you fail? The weight of these questions can feel heavier than failure itself. And so, many people silence their own dreams just to avoid the noise of criticism. They wear masks that keep others happy but leave themselves feeling empty. Yet deep down, every person knows that authenticity cannot be suppressed forever. You can ignore your voice for a while, but eventually it starts whispering louder than society's shouts. It shows up as dissatisfaction in work that doesn't inspire you, as restlessness in a lifestyle that doesn't fit you, as frustration in pretending to be someone you're not. The cost of silencing your true self is far greater than the cost of facing other people's opinions. Because no matter how much you please the world, if you betray yourself, happiness remains out of reach. History remembers those who chose authenticity over approval. Artists, thinkers, leaders, and innovators, almost all of them were once criticized, ridiculed, or misunderstood. Their ideas seemed strange, their choices unusual, their courage uncomfortable for others to accept. But instead of bending to society's expectations, they stayed true to who they were, and eventually, the same world that doubted them began to celebrate them. Their lives remind us that what seems foolish today may be seen as visionary tomorrow, but only if we dare to stay authentic. Living beyond society's opinions requires courage. But courage does not mean fighting against everyone. It means listening deeply to yourself and honoring what you hear. It means asking, is this really my choice? Or is it just what I was told to choose? It means realizing that other people's opinions are shaped by their own fears, experiences, and limitations, and those don't have to become yours. When you stop letting the world dictate who you should be, you give yourself permission to grow into who you truly are. The truth is, no one else can live your life for you. At the end of the day, the voices of society will fade, but you will still be left with yourself. The question is, will that self be a stranger, shaped entirely by other people's expectations? Or will it be the authentic you that was there all along? Society will always have its opinions, but your life was never meant to be lived as a performance for them. It was meant to be lived as an expression of your truest self. Courage is often misunderstood as the absence of fear. People think that those who are courageous feel no anxiety, no hesitation, no trembling in the heart. But in reality, courage is not about the lack of fear. It is about moving forward in spite of fear. Every person who has done something remarkable has felt fear. The difference is that they did not allow fear to control their decisions. They acknowledged its presence, looked it in the eye, and still took the next step. That is the true meaning of courage. Think about the first time someone stands on a stage to speak in front of an audience. The palms sweat, the voice shakes, and the heart races. Fear screams, "Sit down. Don't embarrass yourself." Yet the moment they take a deep breath and start speaking, something shifts. The fear does not disappear instantly, but courage grows louder than fear. Every word spoken weakens the grip of fear until it no longer controls the situation. This is the power of acting while afraid. Courage is also seen in small, everyday decisions. It shows up when someone chooses honesty over comfort, when a person stands up for what is right even if they stand alone, when an individual dares to chase a dream others mock. In all these moments, fear is there, whispering its doubts. But courage is the voice that says, "Yes, I am afraid. But I will act anyway. Without fear, courage would have no meaning. They are two sides of the same coin, and greatness comes from learning how to respond when fear tries to dominate. The most inspiring stories are born from people who acted in spite of fear. Think of those who stepped into unknown lands, who began revolutions, who created breakthroughs in science, art, and humanity. None of them were fearless. They were human like everyone else. What set them apart was their ability to take action regardless of how loud their fear was. They understood that fear is not a stop sign. It is a signal that you are standing on the edge of growth. Fear often paints a picture of worst case scenarios, magnifying every possible danger. But most of those dangers are exaggerations, products of imagination rather than reality. Courage is the decision to move forward without waiting for certainty. If you wait until all fear disappears, you will wait forever. The path to confidence begins with action, and action requires courage. Each step you take while afraid proves to you that fear is not as strong as it appears. Slowly, the mind learns that the best way to weaken fear is not by avoiding it, but by facing it. True courage is not loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet and personal. It is the mother who endures hardship to give her children a better life. It is the student who raises a hand to ask a question even when afraid of looking foolish. It is the dreamer who works tirelessly on an idea no one else believes in. These acts may never make the news, but they are all reflections of courage. The choice to move forward with fear in the heart and hope in the spirit. There is something magnetic about a person who is unapologetically themselves. When you meet someone who is not trying to fit into a mold, not pretending to be perfect, not hiding behind masks, you can feel their presence immediately. It's not about how loud they are, how rich they are, or how talented they are. It's about their authenticity. The raw, original self has a power that imitation can never achieve. Yet so many people spend their lives trying to be copies of others, chasing standards set by society, and silencing the voice within them that longs to be free. From a young age, we are taught to compare ourselves. We compare grades, looks, jobs, lifestyles, and even happiness. In this endless race of comparison, we start losing sight of who we really are. We try to behave like others, dress like others, think like others, hoping it will earn us validation. But what it actually earns us is exhaustion, because no matter how hard you try, you can never outshine someone at being themselves. You will always be second best at imitation, but you will always be number one at authenticity. The world already has one of them. It desperately needs one of you. Being your raw self is not about being reckless or careless. It is about being real. It means speaking your truth when silence is easier. It means pursuing your passion even when it looks unusual to others. It means embracing your flaws instead of hiding them, knowing that imperfections are not weaknesses, but signatures of individuality. When you are raw and original, people may not always agree with you, But they will always respect your honesty. And more importantly, you will respect yourself in there. There is no peace greater than living in alignment with who you truly are. Some of the most influential figures in history became powerful because they refused to dilute their originality. Think of great artists, thinkers, reformers, and leaders. What made them stand out was not that they followed trends, but that they created them. They dared to bring their unique perspective into the world, even when mocked or doubted. Their raw authenticity became their strength, and eventually, it became their legacy. The same principle applies to each of us. Your originality may not shake the whole world, but it can transform your world, and that is equally powerful. The struggle, of course, is that being authentic often feels risky. It may bring criticism, judgment, or even rejection. That is why many people choose the safer path of blending in. But blending in comes with its own hidden pain, the slow death of individuality. When you live to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, not even yourself. The courage to be your raw self may not guarantee universal approval, but it guarantees freedom. And freedom is far more valuable than acceptance based on pretense. The truth is, your greatest strength lies not in becoming someone else, but in fully embracing yourself. The quirks, the passions, the mistakes, the wisdom, the fire in your heart, all of it makes you who you are. When you live authentically, you radiate a kind of energy that cannot be faked. People are drawn to it because it reminds them of their own hidden truth. Your originality is not just for you, it is a gift to the world. By being yourself, you give others permission to do the same. That is the power of being raw, real, and original. Every person born into this world carries a role that no one else can fully play. You may not realize it, but there are things you can offer that no one else can. It could be your way of thinking, your style of solving problems, the compassion in your heart, or the perspective shaped by your unique journey. Just like every fingerprint is distinct, so is the mark you are meant to leave on this world. The tragedy is that too many people spend their lives trying to fit into roles designed by others, instead of embracing the one that only they can fulfill. Think of life as a grand orchestra. Each instrument has its part, each note has its place. If the violin tries to sound like the trumpet, the harmony is lost. If the flute refuses to play because it thinks the drum is louder, the music loses its depth. The beauty of the symphony lies not in similarity, but in diversity. In the same way, the world needs each person to play their part, not to copy another's. Your voice, no matter how small it seems, is essential to the larger song of life. Often, we underestimate our importance because we compare ourselves to others. We look at those who seem more talented, more successful, more visible, and we conclude that our role doesn't matter. But significance is not measured by size. It is measured by impact. A candle may not light an entire city, but in a dark room, it makes all the difference. In the same way, your unique contribution may not be visible to the entire world, but to someone, somewhere. It could mean everything. Throughout history, great change has not only come from famous leaders, but also from ordinary individuals playing their unique roles with courage. A teacher who inspired one student, a parent who sacrificed for their family, a stranger who showed kindness at the right moment. All these seemingly small acts carry ripples that extend far beyond what we can see. The world does not need everyone to be famous. It needs everyone to be faithful to the role only they can play. The danger of ignoring this truth is that when we fail to embrace our role, the world loses something irreplaceable. If you hide your voice, someone misses out on encouragement they needed. If you bury your talent, a problem remains unsolved. If you suppress your creativity, a spark that could inspire others never gets lit. You may think you are just one among billions, but no one else can replicate your exact mix of experiences, strengths, and perspective. Your role, however big or small, belongs to you alone. Living with this awareness changes the way we see ourselves. Instead of asking, "Why am I not like them?" we begin to ask, "How can I give more of me?" Instead of chasing roles that look glamorous, we begin to embrace the responsibility of our own unique place. And when we do, life feels purposeful. We are no longer trying to compete in someone else's race. We are running in our own lane. That is where fulfillment is found, not in imitation, but in realization. The world doesn't need another copy of someone else. It needs the one and only you, playing the role only you were born to play.